just kidding. Okay.
We can clip it on behind. You want to go up and I think Caldwell likes the up and over the shoulder thing under the collar.
Okay.
Say hey, hey, hey.
Test, test, test. Test, test, test. Dr. Promotion, how are you, sir? Are you doing okay? Y'all have a good night last night?
Test, test, 1, 2, 1, 2.
All right, good morning, good morning. Is the mic hot already? All right, good morning, everyone. How's everybody doing this morning? Doing a mic test, can you hear me? We're getting ready to get started. Come on in, come on in. If you're making your way through the back door, come on in, thank you. All right, just really briefly, I want to cover a couple of housekeeping notes. We have another phenomenal day of workshops and division work lined up for you all. So a couple of things to keep in mind as we move through the course of today. First off, for visitor parking, I believe we've covered and notified all those individuals who were parked in visitor spots. However, just keep in mind moving forward throughout the day that the visitor parking spaces are reserved for our prep school parents and also our preschool. So keep that in mind that if you do park in the visitor parking, you will be ticketed. Keep that in mind. Also, we do have a great and powerful presentation on leadership that will be delivered here shortly. And through the day, keep in mind that after our presentation this morning, we'll have a break, and then we'll move into another 2-hour block of professional development workshops. They'll be from 10 o'clock to 12 o'clock this morning. And then after the second block of our workshops, then we'll transition into a working lunch and our division meetings for today. And so with the division meetings, once you are in your division meeting, that'll be the time whenever we'll engage in the working lunch. In terms of picking up your lunch, I should say, the Bulldog Room will be your location for pickup for your lunches, right? And so if you flow through this after the presentation, we'll move into our workshops. After the workshops, between 10 to 12, we'll transition to the Bulldog Room. Your lunches will be available for pickup there, and then you can make your way to your division meeting. And all of our division meeting locations are specified by room location on our agenda. All right, and so with that said, I will now call up our fearless leader, little Rocky and Bullwinkle reference here, Dr. Susan Isaac.
I was just checking. I might be one or the other. Okay. So welcome to day 2, and we got an exciting lineup that you just heard from Josiah. But to kick off today, I want to start by doing some thank yous, and start with first thanking our president, because you may not realize this, but this assembly was not originally in my budget. But we decided it was important to get us all back together, get the band back together, and he graciously funded it for us. So, yay! Well, thank you, sir. And then I definitely want to thank the team for putting this together, because it does take a lot of hands to make something this big happen. And so thank you to Tracy and Athea for organizing the workshops, Amber doing the technology, Josiah, of course, arranging everything, Blair, Linda, and then, of course, just to let you all know, we all just actually do what Barbara tells us to do. So she's the real leader of this whole event and been doing it a really long time. So thank you to you guys and our speakers and program deans today for leading all those sessions. So the next faculty assembly, and I've been talking to folks about this today, is in August. So that one will be an in-person faculty assembly. It's going to be August 10th and 11th, right before we come back, so save the date for that. And we're going to send out the PowerPoint presentations, and when we do that, I'll have the date on there, so you don't have to write it down or anything right now. But just so you know. And the focus of the next faculty assembly, we're going to focus on technology in the classroom. And yes, ChatGPT has come up a lot. So we're going to talk a lot about that. So anybody who's got speaker, ideas for workshops, go ahead and send them to Josiah and Athea, and we'll start building the workshops out for next assembly in August. And then the spring workshop next year will actually be virtual. That way we won't interrupt classes, kind of like we're doing now, but we felt it was important to at least get us together for this year. So, since he is here this morning, I do want to have Randy Elvidge stand up so we can all give him a round of applause. As our Junior College Educator of the Year. And the first thing I went was, he hasn't gotten this award before? I was surprised. So if you know Randy, you would be just as shocked as I am that he has not gotten that. So the focus of today's faculty assembly, yesterday's faculty assembly, is obviously leadership, right? So I do want to thank Title III for the book that they purchased for all of us to have, the John Maxwell book, and hopefully you'll get a chance to look through that and read it. But today we have very seasoned leaders to talk about leadership. And so I had asked General Rock if he wouldn't mind doing our presentation today, because we talk a lot about leadership, and he's an extremely seasoned leader, and you'll enjoy his presentation, I know you will. And then, of course, a very seasoned leader, our 21st president of Georgia Military College, and my boss, Lieutenant General Caldwell. Come on up.
Well, good morning. Listen, I noticed Dr. Cummings is all the way in the back in the very last seat, as far back as you can get. Marty, don't worry. I appreciate you holding up the rear back there for everybody, you know. And if it wasn't for Barbara down here in the front row, there would be nobody down here except her and Dr. P. So anyway, hey, listen, I just want to cover a couple quick things. Susan gave me exactly 10 minutes. So I've got to be sort of fast and quick. We recently put together a paper, and if you haven't seen it, it's on the 4 big ideas. And we try to sort of capture where we kind of are as an institution right now. It's a 2-pager. We sent it out to all the campus directors. I'm not sure if they passed it to you. I'll make sure we get it to Dr. Isaac, and so she can get that out to you all too, so you all have a copy of it. It's going to be in the next President's Report that the foundation puts out. But it helps outline, you know, our number 1 big idea, contribute to student success, and we talk a little about that, and then we talk a little about, you know, all 4 of the big ideas, and I'm going to cover just a little bit of those real fast. But I first want to talk about this slide. You've all seen this. As you go out and become ambassadors, as you're in your communities and you're talking to people, you know, what are the couple of little sound bites that we're asking everybody to be able to say about the institution? Because we are a very unique entity, unlike anything else in the state of Georgia. So it is somewhat challenging and hard to explain sometimes. It's not like we're just a community college, or we have just a college cadet program, or we have a 4-year leadership college, or even here in Milledgeville, there's this K through 12 program that exists. So as you talk to people, there's opportunities, unlimited opportunities if you go to Georgia Military College. You truly can do whatever you want to do. And the opportunity to go there, there's all kinds of support we can provide too for families that may be challenged financially. I can tell you just alone, if you look over here, this is only in Milledgeville. So this is the K through 12 program. You know, if somebody moves to Milledgeville, wants to put their kids in that school, it's an incredible school. I had 3 of my own children graduate from that school. Last one about 2 years ago. So I was able to watch it firsthand as a parent. But it is an amazing school. It is public independent, which means our board of trustees, instead of a local school board, operates and maintains and provides oversight for this thing. But 100% graduation rate for the last 11 years. And probably the best statistic that I like to share with people, 6 years after our kids graduate from that high school, 80% of them have a college degree. There's high schools in America that would just wish they could get an 80% high school graduation rate. We have 100% and have had it for at least 12 years. It started before I even got here. They were achieving that with the students down there. But this thing here, 80% of the kids have a college degree 6 years after they graduate from high school. That's almost unheard of. But I mean, it just tells you what's instilled in these young boys and girls, that they want to go on and pursue and get a degree in some field or endeavor because they understand how important that is to them in the future. Anyway, That's the K through 12 program with, you know, every year 3 to 4 state titles in something. Just a fine arts program, second to none in the state of Georgia. I mean, truly second to none in the state of Georgia from fine arts. And yet at the same time, every single child wears a uniform. There's military formations every day. There's inspections. 52% of the kids are girls, and 77% of the jobs, leadership roles this year are held by girls. So boys are really sucking. They need to step it up. Anyway, that's this school. But it is a place where what you find is if you put a young lady in an environment where she can really show her full potential, it comes out and is seen by so many, and that's what they do down in this school. Okay, main campus right here in Milledgeville. We're all here today. This is the Corps of Cadets. Again, when I'm sitting there talking to somebody, they go, well, I can't afford to go to college. And I say, do you mind serving in the Georgia National Guard? Well, what do you mean? I say, well, if you serve in the Georgia National Guard, you can go to this school right here for free for 2 years. Books, tuition, fees, boarding, room, board, everything. Uniforms, 100% free. There's scholarships, unlimited scholarships. The state of Georgia every year marks over $1 million just to help men and women in Georgia who are willing to serve in the Georgia National Guard come to and go to school here for 2 years, with the only payback is 2 more years in the Georgia National Guard, and then your commitment's done. I mean, it's an amazing opportunity for men and women in Georgia who don't have any money, and there's many, many people in that position, but don't mind serving in the Georgia National Guard. Come join the College Corps Cadets. If you want instead to become an officer, we got ROTC scholarships. Again, they're 2 years, and you're commissioned as a second lieutenant, United States Army. Most of them go into the Georgia National Guard, but you can go in the National Guard in Florida, West Virginia, wherever you go find a position. ROTC scholarships pays for everything, and then we are a yellow ribbon school, so we match it. And so there's zero cost to the student to be an ROTC student here too, which includes room and board and everything else. 250 opportunities right there that exist for any man or woman in the state of Georgia who's willing to serve in the Georgia National Guard and or the United States Army. If they want to be in the Air Force, the Georgia National Guard Air Force, they can be here too. We got scholarships for that. So you don't just have to go in the Army, you can go into the Air Force too and be part of the National Guard Air Force contingent. Anyway, so I just point that out. So as you're engaging with people in your communities, right here in Milledgeville, entrance requirements pretty much do not exist. Those who need help will help them get there to where they can make it happen, but a great program. This one is our athletics. 10 years ago when I was joining the team, we probably had 60% of our athletes were from the state of Georgia. Today we're up to about 90%, 92%. So this coming fall, we'll have very, very few men and women in any of our athletic programs that are not from the state of Georgia. We've taken in and we're actively recruiting here. Saves us huge amounts of money in terms of putting people on the road and having to go out and recruit in other states. And we're not trying to become some premier athletic program that's always #1 in the nation. What we're trying to provide is the best possible athletic program we can for men and women from the state of Georgia that want to continue playing football, that want to do soccer, that want to do cross country, that want to do rifle. I mean, all these opportunities, play softball, they all exist right there, here in Milledgeville. Again, about another 250 students. And then this one here, I just want to make sure everybody knows. We'll talk about it later, but we're bringing on the Public Safety Leadership Institute. What we will do starting this fall, we're recruiting right now, and we'll have probably just 3 to 5 this first year because we really have not made that well known yet, but young men and women who want to go into law enforcement, GBI, DNR, Department of Natural Resources, corrections, Sheriff's Department, City Police, doesn't matter, whatever it is. They come here and they go to 2 years of school with us. It's a paradigm shift in how you prepare people to go into law enforcement. Our nation continues to grapple with this major issue. We think we have a wonderful, where's Sam Akers? He's here someplace. Oh, he stepped out. Hey, yeah, tell Sam to get back in here. Okay, Sam is the man up there that's, he can answer any questions y'all may have. He is the expert, really helping lead this charge, but this is gonna be phenomenal. And what it does, it puts men and women into our College Corps cadets. They're embedded with our college cadets. So as our men and women are going through, learning all the values of being in the Army or the Air Force, these young men and women who want to one day go into law enforcement are getting the same thing. Except when they go off to do military training, they go off to do law enforcement training. And when they graduate at the end of 2 years, they have a degree in criminal justice or homeland security, and they're mandated, meaning they're ready to carry a gun and go work in a local law enforcement. So for the first time, we're trying to really do some very in-depth training with these men and women before they ever have the opportunity to interact with the public. So that's the Georgia Public Safety Leadership Institute. Our 11 satellite locations, that's truly so critical for us to have those presence out in every community so that they know we exist and where we are. If many of you today are from the satellite locations, we recognize, and we've watched for about 15 years now, the number of in-seat students slowly decline. To this next year, projection the lowest since I've been here for in-seat students. We would like to see if we can arrest that and maybe put it back on an upward trend. To do that means, again, engaging in our community and sharing with men and women in the community, moms and dads, young high school kids, the opportunities that exist at each of our locations, that you can, in fact, go there and take classes. You may not be able to take every class you want in every degree, and if you can't, then there's the, as you all know, the online opportunity to do that too, or do it remote, or do a hybrid. I mean, there's just, we really have, I mean, I could not be more proud of how we have evolved and adapted and tried to make ourselves more user-friendly to give the young student today, or non-traditional student, what they're looking for. So 11 satellite locations. Our Global Online Leadership College, our vision on this thing is we become the educational hub for the armed forces of the United States. Not the Army, not the Navy, Air Force, the entire armed forces of the United States. To the point where if a young man or woman goes into any service, Coast Guard, Navy, whatever it is, and they're thinking about getting their associate's degree or their four-year degree, that people would naturally turn to them and gravitate and say, well, have you ever thought about Georgia Military College? They got an incredible online four-year leadership program. You can do it at your own pace, at your own time, and get your four-year degree or your two-year associate degree. When all of you all think of education and you think of online programs, everybody here has the name of one or two that would just come to your mind. Having spent 37 years in the Army, we had about 3 or 4 that I just always knew of, because that's where most of the young men and women in the Army took their online courses. Our vision is we become that institution. Our Global Online Leadership College becomes that for the armed forces of the United States. And when they're thinking about, I want to go take classes, they're thinking about GMC. From that, as you know then, we want to make sure they've got a progression. And so just recently we signed with Georgia College State University here in town and with Wesleyan College, the private college. Although it's women undergrad, it's not that way for postgrad. And we've got the seamless transfer to an MBA with them. So if you have a 4-year BAS degree with Georgia Military College, you seamlessly transfer with no fees, no GMAT tests or anything else, right into their MBA programs. So that now Georgia becomes the educational entity for the armed forces. So they mentally start thinking, I'll go to GMC, and within the state of Georgia, there's a multitude of higher ed institutions that have postgraduate programs that I can continue my degree in if I want to. That's what we'd like to see us evolve into as we keep going forward. So GOLC, it's a 4-year leadership degree. I'm watching it firsthand as a parent. So my youngest went to Alabama for a year, came back here, didn't do bad, did actually real well over there, but just realized he needed a change in his lifestyle. Came back here, got his degree here at the main campus, finished that, and now he's in the GOLC working on, they transfer him from main campus to GOLC, and now he's working on his 4-year degree in Homeland Security and Emergency Management. Loves it, while simultaneously working full-time, which he wanted to do. That's his choice. He's got my GI Bill. That's how he's going to school. So it's not like he had to, but he very much wants to. So I'm watching this entity and how it operates and how he's reacting to it, and just absolutely loving this experience he's having here. And then the last one over here on your far right, our Leadership Center. Obviously, GIPSLE right here is a subset of that at some point. But we are standing up and moving forward with leadership initiatives. In fact, you're going to start hearing more and more. We've run 1 or 2 already where we've worked with companies and gone in and taught leadership programs. We're going to continue to expand and grow on that. What we are trying to do at GMC is figure out how we can help contribute for the further education and development of men and women in Georgia, where we have a specialty or a niche. So leadership. We are a leadership institute. We've been a leadership institute for 143 years. What we're doing now is we're really shining a light on that, what we have. It's not like it's something new or different, but we have reworked some of the courses. We've reworked some of our programs. We're putting a refocus on it. We're shining the light. And we're making sure people know that if you go to GMC, yes, you're going to get a superb academic education. There is no question. That's what we do. But you're also going to walk away as a better person who's got leadership skills. And I've had some young men and women, because if you go to Kroger, people those young kids run when they see me because they know they're going to get a 5-minute pitch on GMC. I always go up, introduce myself, I ask them what they're doing. They'll tell me and they'll go, hey, listen, I work at Georgia Military College, and I want to tell you about opportunities that exist over there for you. And they're like, oh, no. And, I just got to buy enough groceries so it keeps going through. So I've got the time to make my, 2-3-minute pitch to them. But I really do stress to them. I said, look, here's the deal. You can go anywhere and get an academic education. You can't go anywhere, though, and learn leadership skills. Well, hey, sir, I don't really care. I don't plan to go lead anything or run anything. I said, yeah, but you need to lead yourself. If you don't know how to lead yourself, you're never going to go anywhere or achieve anything you want to achieve, and you'll be frustrated in life. So learn how to lead yourself. That's the first thing we're going to teach you. And then one day you may decide to get married. And when you get married and you have a family, then you've got to learn interpersonal skills and how to work with each other. I said, anyway, so we go through a talk about leadership is important at any level. And no matter whether you do it individually for your personal self, or you're going to go expand it and be a leader in your family or one of the leaders in your family, or whether you want to go beyond that in your workplace. So leadership, be an ambassador. We need everybody to walk out of here today, and hopefully we're going to have better empowered you to feel comfortable in telling anybody Georgia Military College offers unlimited opportunities. We have, as we like to say right up here, we have pathways of opportunities that exist at Georgia Military College that you can take advantage of. It can be here at our local satellite campus in your community. It can be online with our leadership college. It can be in Milledgeville in our College Corps cadets or our athletic programs. I mean, it's truly unlimited. Anything you want to do, we pretty much offer it now at Georgia Military College. So there's no reason you can't get an education, both academically and personally, and become a better person for yourself and your family in the future. So that's the pitch there. That's the big vision, hopefully, that we can talk more about it while you all are here. But I've just got to tell you, I'm incredibly excited about it. I just think we've got a niche, a specialty that doesn't exist at any other institution. And I can tell you from just having been spending the months of January, February, March, work with the members of the General Assembly, our state representatives and senators, that's the question I'm always asked. Why don't you just go underneath the regions? Or why don't you just become part of the technical college system? And I said, because we're different. I said, anybody can become part of the Regents or the technical college system, but not everybody teaches leadership and instills in our men and women that we have the opportunity to work with more self-responsibility and ability to lead when they walk out, along with a great academic education. Okay, that's my pitch, Susan. Thank you for the opportunity, Dr. Isaac, for allowing me to have a few minutes with the team. And what I'd like to do, are you going to do the introduction or am I? Okay. Hey, many of you all know General Rock Donahue came on with us almost 9 years ago now as part of the GMC leadership team. He worked over and initially just helping us get the Fayetteville campus created, developed, stood up, running. He then took over multiple campuses, then he kind of ran half the institution's campuses out there. We asked him about a year and a half ago because we are really blessed to have been able to work with the General Assembly and get funding to do about $20 million worth of construction on this main campus here that's ongoing as we speak. So the General Assembly is funding it. We're really excited about it, but we also recognize we want it to get done right, come in on budget, and have the right oversight. And so we asked General Donahue, he's an Army engineer by trade, ran the Southeast United States, everything that the Army Corps of Engineers does at one point, and then became the operations officer basically for the entire entity. I mean, he's got quite a storied background there in engineering. So he's got that, mechanical engineering mindset when he thinks about things, very sequenced, evolved, works all the PERT diagrams and everything else when he's talking. So anyway, we've asked General Donahue, he's already been teaching leadership classes. He started this, I guess, really with a real focus about a year ago for us. We asked him to do that. He's continuing to evolve in this area for us. He's just finished helping, if you didn't hear, between quarter 3 and quarter 4, we kept all of our cadets, our 200-some cadets, here on main campus, and we ran a 1-week leadership course. We called it LCDC, Leadership and Character Development Course. We brought in a couple of people from industry to attend and with us, just to get their perspective on the course, but it was phenomenal. 5 days, intense leader and character development for men and women with no other distractions. Every day, morning, getting up, PT and all that still, and then all day long program into the evenings, and we concluded it on Friday afternoon. But he was a key piece of that one too, teaching about 25% of the content to our 200 cadets and visitors. Anyway, with that, General Donahue, let me turn it over to you. We just call him General Rock. All right.
Thanks. Thank you. Thank you. Well, thank you, sir, for that gracious introduction, and most importantly, thank you, sir, for your inspired servant leadership as the 21st president of Georgia Military College, for bringing me on 8.5 years ago to build the Fayetteville campus, and as the president described, a pretty interesting journey ever since. And a very special thanks to my colleague and good friend, Dr. Susan Isaac, for this very unique invitation to speak to you this morning as we launch day 2 of the Spring Faculty Assembly. Please know that the sense and significance of occasion here today is certainly not lost on me. This is a get-to event, not a have-to event. I wasn't directed to do this. I don't think I was the only one left to agree to do it. Dr. Isaac came to me months ago and said, would you be willing to present? And I said, absolutely. So again, Susan, thank you very much for the invitation to be here. It takes a team of teams to pull off not only the assembly, but to get me to this podium. So I want to thank Tanya Fountain, Barbara Bundridge, and so many others, Dr. Tracy Makeley, Dr. Josiah Pomoja, Amber Necia, Ashley in IT. Every one of them spent time with me over the last 2 weeks as I really wanted to craft a presentation that would be meaningful to you, to reach you where you're at. And in the back, we've got Keith Bergeron, we've got AJ and Eddie from IT, Natalie and Reese from nearby Georgia College and State University. So again, it's a team of teams. This is a multimedia presentation. And so we were in here yesterday rehearsing all this. So I'm prayerful that this is going to go off without a hitch and that you're going to be inspired. Most importantly to all of you, to the academicians, faculty program coordinators, program deans, department and senior department chairs, associate vice presidents, academic administrators, and those joining us live stream, good morning. Good morning, leaders. How are you doing today? Are you excited? Are you ready to lead strong? All right. Well, as we say in the Army, false motivation is better than none at all. So that's okay. It looks like we got social distancing by rows here. And, sir, I picked up on the same. Dr. Marty Cummings is in the back door, and Dr. Pomoja is here in the front row. So we've got good left and right security. But let me just say from the bottom of my heart, it is great to be back with you. The President described my journey for the last year, almost year and a half now. I've been out of the region, as we called it. So it's good to be back in your presence, especially as I was privileged to hire, promote, and approve the repositioning of many of you who are here in the audience today as executive director and then regional director of what we once called the Atlanta Metropolitan Region, teams Fayetteville, Fairburn, Stone Mountain, Zebulon, Madison, and Rockdale. Now, a fact you may not know is that during that period of 7.5 years, I was truly blessed to partner with nearly 20 full-time faculty, several of you are here today, hundreds of adjunct professors, and eight permanent or acting academic deans, and one inaugural regional dean. So in order, those deans were Brandy Dent-Jones, who was with me for about 3 months out of Warner Robins as I was building the Fayetteville campus and the academic programs. Then Scott Battle, Dr. Marty Cummings, Dr. Sonia Coley, Michelle Lewis, Tariq Johnson, and Dr. Josiah Pomoja. Now, Josiah is truly what we call rockinized, because I teamed with Josiah in 3 different positions and 3 different years, and I ordered him to sit in the front row. So he's up here because he gets it. He knows it. But that's true. That's true. 3 positions and 3 years. So truly blessed to be back with all of you today. Well, as the good book tells us in Ecclesiastes chapter 3, to everything there's a season and a time to every purpose. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe we're living in exponential times. A season unlike any time in the nation's history, and our purpose today is to talk about leading strong in your life, and especially here at Georgia Military College as authentic servant leaders. In your classrooms, in your departments, your satellite sites here at the main campus, wherever you are, you need to lead strong. As we forge our legacy of leadership to meet the challenges of an increasingly complex and transforming world in pursuit of President Colwell's Vision 2029 for this institution. When? In just 6 years. Hard to believe. In just 6 years, sir. We will be a nationally recognized leader in providing character-based higher education, improving students' personal well-being, and giving hope for a brighter future. Now, to accomplish my purpose this morning, I'm going to show you 8 slides and 3 videos. 8 slides, 3 videos. And they're supplemented by the book that Dr. Isaac already teed up, John C. Maxwell's Developing the Leader Within You 2.0. Now, maybe you haven't dug into this yet. John Maxwell published this in 1993. It was his very first book. Very first one. He's published hundreds. This was his first. And then in the first couple of pages, he explains to you how he went back and took his 40 or 50 years of leadership, knowledge, and education and infused it back into his first book, and he updated it in 2018, and that's what you got here, 2.0. I think you all got a copy of the Leading Strong in a Complex World article I was privileged to publish last fall in a publication called Intervector Sanctum N360. I'll describe that later in the presentation. And then, of course, you picked up from Tanya and Tracy the Authentic Servant Leader Kit. Now, I want you to do your very best to hold on to this until the end of the presentation. Marty, don't eat the Snickers bar yet. Okay, I'm going to explain what that means. But this is your takeaway. This is your gift, and hopefully it'll reinforce everything we're going to talk about here today. But if you get hungry, just hold on. If you didn't get a bag, we had over 110 of these, so if you didn't get a bag, go ahead and grab one of those. Okay, so if you're ready to launch and cross the leading strong line of departure, let's go ahead and get started. As in any good presentation in the military, you start with a bluff. Bottom line up front. Took us about 6 months to understand what that meant in the late 80s. Bluff. This is what I'm going to tell you. Take a look at that first bullet. That is you. Academic affairs is the bedrock upon which we build student success and forge our legacy of leadership. It starts with you. As I used to tell the deans and my faculty, you all spend more time engaging with students in one day than I as a regional director spent in a month, just because of the nature of our interactions. So everything about our success here as an institution and with our students, our ambassadors, as the president refers to them as, starts with you. We live in a complex and rapidly transforming world, creating what we call exponential times. I'm going to show that to you. And because of those exponential times, we've got to respond. The president has been leading us in this response for several years. You may not know that. We have not been conducting business as usual for 4 years now. And so we're on this journey. The president has approved a renewed mission statement that we are going to present to the Board of Trustees because we're at a strategic inflection point. We've got disruption in the business model. Disruption in the world. And if we didn't respond, it would derail us. It could cause our demise. This was not discovered yesterday, nor last year. It was discovered several years ago. As the president launched the Reimagine Task Force, as we start to embark on profound change. Profound. So when you face these strategic inflection points, you've got to renew your mission statement. You can't stay where you are. You have to shape where you're going. That also requires the implementation of a corresponding transformational leader growth model. And we're going to do that, as the president has already teed up, through this culture of care. We're getting extensive briefings right here on the infusion of leadership, ethics, character development into all our courses and degree programs across the institution's pathways of opportunity. The president just described those. And then I posit to you that leader growth takes place across 5 independent domains of leadership. They're actually interdependent. And you can form the acrostic delta. They don't necessarily happen sequentially. It's concurrently, but development, when to act, education, how to think, learning what to know, training what to do, and assessment, which is the hardest piece, where to grow. Where to grow. And then finally, developing the leader within you will equip and enable you to lead strong in this transforming world, complex world, as we evolve our students, student athletes, and cadets, all called ambassadors across the institution, into authentic servant leaders and engaged citizens grounded in civility and respect for others. Now, let me just pause for a moment on this graphic. I think you got a copy of this when you showed up at the conference yesterday. That is the cover of the publication that I was fortunate enough to write for when I was contacted last summer by a friend and the editor and publisher of that magazine. She's also the CEO of Professional Global Outreach. Her name is Dr. Linda Restrepo. And she and I did some work after I retired on operations in Iraq and some work that she was doing out there in Texas. But bottom line is this is her primary role, is editing and publishing this magazine 4 times a year. It is a trusted technology and learning resource providing in-depth access to the latest technological advances by the world's experts and referenced globally by universities, C-suites, government agencies, and libraries. I mean, I get this on LinkedIn. She emails it to me 4 or 5 times a year. As you can tell by the cover graphics, and every one of them looks something like this. This is extremely technical magazine. I mean, this is high-end stuff here, where people like you in your fields are really global visionaries, thought leaders, if you will, in the private, public sector, defense industries, very technical fields associated with economic and national and defense security related industries who understand and practice management theory, but as Dr. Restrepo said, Rock, they really don't understand leadership principles, because when she reached out to me, I said, how can I possibly help in this kind of a magazine? These are extremely high-end thoughts and brilliant ideas, quantum theory, artificial intelligence, et cetera, robotics. And that's why she asked me to write that, because many in these fields, they understand management principles, but they really need some help understanding leadership, and especially authentic servant leadership. Okay, so let's set the stage. Here's the strategic landscape in an overview of the dangerous world that we live in. Now, the Army likes acronyms. We love acrostics, so we call this VUCA. What does that mean? Volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous. Volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. VUCA, VUCA. So, as I was retiring from the United States Army in 2013, this is an unclassified slide of what was going on 10 years ago and how we saw the world and the global trends. So it's important to understand that U.S. security, our security here in the United States, is inextricably linked to global security. And as the visual depicts, leaders in all professions today, we operate within complex and hostile environments across the globe, shaped by an increasing range of threats, including terrorism, insurgencies, transnational groups, rogue states, non-state actors, criminal organizations, and near-peer competitors. It's exacerbated by the transcendence of globalization, urbanization, persistent conflict, protracted competition, fiscal austerity, strained economies, civil unrest, and what we call the tyranny of transparency, specifically regarding network security and information assurance. And it's really perplexed by astounding innovations, many of which are in that magazine I just described, in fields like biotechnology, robotics, drones, deep learning, artificial intelligence, and quantum-enhanced systems like ChatGPT. Now, the other day, I was listening to an interview with Elon Musk. And I was doing my physical training, was listening to the interview, and all of a sudden I heard him introduce a term I'd never heard. He said, we're on the threshold of AGLI. They had just got done talking about artificial intelligence. I thought, AGLI. The interviewer asked Mr. Musk, what does that mean? Artificial godlike intelligence. I stopped working out. What? Artificial godlike intelligence. That's where we're at. So I want you to be thinking about, how does that affect what we're teaching? The rhetorical question I'm going to ask you in a few minutes is, what are we preparing our students for? Now, again, 2013, this is what we were predicting. Look at the probable, possible, and unthinkable scenarios. Many of those are happening today, especially in the current post-pandemic landscape. When our rivals own competing interests, there's a constant possibility for conflict escalation and a heightened risk for organizational security. Now, when you look at this slide, I mean, this is what we were calling the unthinkable in 2013. Amazing. And as I was leaving the military, you're looking at a slide that's thinking, really? A pandemic? Market collapse? Now, we're not here, but take a look at this. climate change, energy crisis, cyber warfare, active shooters, government shutdowns. Unfortunately, I've got personal experience with that one. As General Caldwell knows, I came off the Army's books 30 September 2013. The very next morning, the first time I didn't have to get up at what we call dark 30, got to sleep in, got up, told my wife Nancy, I said, honey, I'm going down and make a cup of coffee. My first day of official retirement. Like many people do, she turned on the news, she checked her phone, she said, Rock, we got a problem. I said, how can we have a problem? It's the first day of retirement. She said, you didn't get paid. I said, honey, retirement pay doesn't check in until the next month. She said, no, you didn't get your last 2 weeks of active duty pay. We look up on the television screen, Fox News alert, federal government shut down. My very first day of retirement, the federal government shut down. Terms like sequestration, what does that mean? Civilian hiring freeze. So now General Retired Rock Donahue sitting at Fort Bragg with 4-star and 3-star commands galore, all the winks and smiles. Rock, don't worry about it. You don't have to move. We're going to keep you right here. Retire on Friday, work for us on Monday. I'm now in a business suit with a briefcase, and all the civilians are walking out of the headquarters, and they're all looking at me like, good luck, Rock. They're not hiring anybody. So we did see government shutdowns. I spent a year in the wilderness from September of 13 to when I met President Caldwell in the summer of 14. At a ceremony at Fort Bragg. And he invited me to be a part of this team. I'm not even sure I asked him what he wanted me to do. I just said, okay, sir. What do you need me to do? Build a campus in Fayetteville. I said, Fayetteville where? Fayetteville, Georgia. I said, for who? Georgia Military College. Where's that? He said, don't worry about it. I didn't know where it was either. It's in Milledgeville. So it's okay. But I joined this team in October of 2014, sir, and thank you very much for that opportunity. Okay, so these unthinkable scenarios we call in the Department of Defense maximum of maximum scenarios. Let's take a look at what other thought leaders think. Okay, so it's clear we live in exponential times. And as an organization, we're at a strategic inflection point in our history where we must effectively respond to disruptive changes in the business environment, or we face deterioration, or worse, our own demise. In short, we are at a decisive moment that marks the start of significant change. As Dr. Linda Restrepo, the CEO of Global Outreach, I mentioned, as she states, the world is more complex and unpredictable than we can see. Technology is at the forefront of the disruption and chaos, and it affects everything from our daily existence, our careers, and the way we make decisions. And there is currently a mismatch between the skills people have and the skills that are required to go forward. So I'm getting back to the daunting question I asked you already. What are we preparing our graduates for? Gerd Leonard is a German futurist, speaker and author who specializes in this ongoing debate between humanity and technology. Let's see what Gerd Leonard has to say about living and leading what he calls change squared. AJ, please cue up the first video.
Once upon a time, business as usual was often good enough. No more. Where we are going, good enough is dead. In a world where everything is connected, where everything is equally excellent, where performance is reaching perfection, there's only one space left to innovate in: you. Right now, you are a central point in the raging tornado of change fueled by digitization, mobilization, augmentation, disintermediation, automation. Well, the list goes on. Science fiction is becoming science fact. Think about self-driving cars or computers that can learn and think. The way we work will never be the same. The skills we need will be dramatically different. Winning or losing are now happening faster than ever before. So what's your response? How will you discover new opportunities in one of the most transformational times in human history? Are you driving change, or are you being driven by it? Disruption has become the new normal. With change, it's always gradually, then suddenly, well, things really have stopped happening gradually. This change is exponential. Everything that used to be dumb and disconnected is now wired and intelligent. Cars, cities, ports, farms, even our bodies will be wired with sensors and will talk to each other. These game changers are also combinatorial. They amplify each other, creating a perfect storm of change. Quantum computing fuels big data. The Internet of Things fuels artificial intelligence and deep learning, which fuels robotics. However, anything that cannot be digitized or automated will become extremely valuable. Human-only traits such as creativity, imagination, intuition, emotion, and ethics will be even more important in the future, because machines are very good at simulating, but not at being. Yes, robots and software will do some of our work, but this will allow us to focus on things that cannot be automated. To imagine change squared, you've got to start engaging more with what might be, not just with what is. Immerse yourself in the immediate future, 5 to 7 years out from today. We need to go beyond technology and data to reach human insights and wisdom. Technology represents the how of change, but humans represent the why. The future is about holistic business model. The opportunity is to be liquid, to learn just in time, not just in case, not single improvements, but complete transformations, not individual systems, but new ecosystems. Humanity is where true and lasting value is created. We will engage, relate, and buy things because of the experiences they provide, because of their transformative power. The future doesn't just happen, the future gets happened. The new way to work is to embrace technology, but not to become it. The future is in technology, yet the bigger future lies in transcending it. Let's live and lead from here.
Thank you, AJ. Now, Jose Estevez is Professor of Information Systems and Associate Dean for MBA and Tech MBA programs at IE Business School. And he specializes in understanding how information systems interact with business processes and human resource management, especially in the area of what Gerd called big data. So AJ, please cue up the second video titled, Did You Know? pretty compelling. What are we preparing our ambassadors, our graduates for? Right there. Any question about your importance in the classroom? Any question about your importance and the significance of your role here under Dr. Isaac in academic affairs as we prepare students across the pathways of opportunity for what I just showed you? The key takeaway from the videos is our rapidly transforming world requires a corresponding transformation of lifelong leader growth to enable high-performing organizations, cohesive teams comprised of winning subordinate teams, what we call team of teams, to thrive in this new strategic landscape. And because there are no predetermined solutions, leaders at all levels, now more than ever in our history, in my judgment, must learn from yesterday, lead to tomorrow, and be equipped with an innovative mind and a willingness to execute decisively with precision and to accept prudent risk in unfamiliar or rapidly changing situations, and have to have the ability to adjust based on what we call continuous assessment and possess the courage to lead necessary change to turn daunting challenges into desirable opportunities. Okay, so what's our response? I'm going to offer to you that effective, transformative, authentic servant leader growth occurs across what I already teed up as the 5 continuous interdependent domains of learning, training, education, development, and assessment. Dr. Chris Babb arranges those letters into what he calls leadership delta, saying development, when to act, education, how to think, learning, what to know, training, what to do, and assessment, where to grow. And that's encompassed by a proven enterprise operating philosophy framed by 4 foundational rallying points I call teamwork, execution, attitude, mission, TEAM, team. So let's see what this looks like. So the team operating construct, an authentic servant leader growth model, is grounded in what you see here. The empowering 3 core attributes of inspired leadership, discipline, execution, and superior performance, which are enriched through 3 shared ethical elements called values, trust, and accountability. Moreover, the leader growth model is engaged by the following 4 foundational rally points. First is teamwork. The President talks about team all the time. It is not about I. It's about we and what we accomplish together as a team. That's promoted through those 3 words: connection, communication, and collaboration. Look at the first one. What are we doing here this morning? Hopefully we're connecting. John Maxwell's got a whole book titled Everyone Communicates, But Few Connect. You've heard the old saying, touch your heart before you ask for a helping hand. Boss says go. A leader says let's go. So we start with teamwork. Next is execution. That's fostered by engagement, empowerment, and excellence in all we do. Attitude. The one thing that you can control each and every day, right? It's true. The only thing that you have absolute control of every single day of your life is your attitude. Maxwell says attitude determines your altitude. Every day, focus on that. We're going to talk a little bit about level 5 leadership, which is on page 8 of the book that you were provided. But in essence, that is summarized by those 3 traits right there: personal humility, professional will, and positive determination. And then there's mission. I talked about that, didn't I? I talked about our existing mission and then how we're transforming. We're renewing our mission, and we've got the resolve to do it based on the strategic and operational environment and, of course, results. So together, the infusion of all of these traits and attributes, these shared ethical elements, and these foundational rally points produce what you see there at the bottom: principled servant leaders of character, strengthening the profession. And they embody the 4 enduring qualities of being relevant, respected, responsive, and, of course, resilience. So you see the crux of that model there is that continuous interdependent cycle of leader growth, the delta. It doesn't happen necessarily in sequence. Like your students, every leader is at a different level in your life cycle of development. But just about every single day, you're touching upon one or more of these aspects. You're learning, you're teaching, you're training, you're educating, you're developing, and there's an assessment process that goes on. So when you put all this together, and then you add in our values of duty, honor, country, and character above all, you've got authentic servant leaders operating across the pathways of opportunity you see here, influencing and serving as engaged citizens grounded in civility and respect for others, with the traits of desiring to serve something greater than themselves, demonstrating ethical and moral integrity, showing empathy towards others, exhibiting self-awareness and self-discipline, demonstrating civility and civil discourse, building relationships on trust and mutual respect, empowering others to grow, succeed, and develop personal courage, and creating value for the organizations, and of course giving back to the community. So all that being said, what does that mean? How do we get this done? Well, we'll start with exactly where the president took us. Pathways of opportunity. How do we demonstrate inspired leadership? Now you can scan down those bullets. I'm not going to cover them in great detail. Some of them are pretty straightforward, but you got to kind of put your mind around this. What does that actually mean? Well, you start by setting the moral and ethical climate of your organization. Perhaps it's your classroom. Treat everyone with dignity and respect. Maintain a positive, upbeat attitude to everything you're doing. Sometimes that's hard to do, I know. Not only does shift happen, life happens. So we're shifting, but life happens. Everyone in this room is dealing with something that no one else knows about. I learned that from Lee Cockrell. I brought him in as a guest speaker on my first general officer assignment in California. Lee Cockrell was the COO of Disney for 10 years. He wrote a book, perhaps you've heard of it. I took the region through it. It's called Creating Magic. And on the inside front cover of Creating Magic, Lee posits that at Disney, it's not the magic that makes it work, it's the way they work that makes the magic. Because it's called the what? Magic Kingdom. Right. That's what they teach all of their team members. That remember, when you're in the business of customer service, everyone's dealing with something that no one else knows about. So treat everybody with dignity and respect. Encourage and reward initiative. Develop yourself and those around you. The President talked about that. My good friend and mentor, Brigadier General retired Becky Halstead, the first female graduate of the United States Military Academy, class of 1981. First class was 80. She was the first female out of the first two classes to reach the rank of general officer. Becky Halstead. I met her when she was a colonel. I was a lieutenant colonel in the 10th Mountain Division. Phenomenal leader. Phenomenal leader. And she worked extremely hard and blazed numerous trails in the Army as a senior leader. The first woman in our Department of Defense to serve at the strategic level in Iraq. And she was on the path, no doubt, would have been our first four-star female general officer in the Department of Defense. And then she was afflicted with fibromyalgia. It's all in her book. I was in the Pentagon the day she dropped her retirement papers and the Army staff came to a halt. How long do you think it takes to groom a four-star female general officer? She got a call from the Chief of Staff of the Army, the Secretary of the Army. They begged her, Becky, don't leave. Don't leave. She said, I'm sick. I need to get healthy. As long as she didn't implode, it was a foregone conclusion she would have been a four-star general. Easy. She said, no. Faith-based woman. It's all in her book. After years of trial and error, doctors, medicines, she went to see a chiropractor. Changed her life. Changed her diet. She's now on the path of what she calls steadfast leadership. So she wrote a book after she retired called 24/7, The First Person You Must Lead Is You. That's what she does now. She travels the world speaking on that book. Her mantra is steadfast leadership. You can type that in your search engine, Becky Halstead, steadfast leadership, and her picture will come up. We brought her in as a guest speaker on a Veterans Day recognition sermon a couple years ago in the region. She did a fantastic job. But again, what the president said is spot on, obviously. You start by leading yourself. Well, sir, I don't supervise anybody. You start with yourself. So you lead yourself. Then you can effectively lead others. I would offer that you got to grade fairly and conduct effective and meaningful performance counseling and appraisals. We talk about this, team. It's hard to do because we're so busy. We are. We're running at light speed, right? You got to carve out time to sit down with your team members. Get a pulse check. Get a status check. Every one of you who has worked for me knows I've got a theory here and a philosophy that says you address areas of concern before they become points of friction. You resolve points of friction before they become points of conflict. What typically happens? We don't deal with it. We just let it fester. Next thing you know, we got an area of concern. Now the barn's burning. What I'd offer to you is address it right on. Right, Dr. Mimoja, we call those caring conversations. Sometimes you got to have those caring conversations. Those of us in senior leader positions, many of you saying we've had several. They're difficult, they're hard, but you got to bring people in and have those caring conversations. Get people back on the right track if you can. Next, discipline, execution of duties. I would offer to you that in your line, you've got to distribute that academic excellence across the pathways. That's the expectation from the president. Academic excellence. There's no other choice. It's not academic mediocrity, academic excellence. And you do that by developing disciplined people, thought, and action. The third book, pretty straightforward. Do what's right. Legally, morally, and ethically every day in all you do. You'd think that would be pretty easy to do. Turn on the news. Turn on the news. Right. Engage and empower subordinates. Be accountable. It's my favorite word. Everybody wants it. Nobody likes to talk about it. Everybody wants values and trust. You start talking about accountability. I'm not talking about an intrusive accountability. I'm talking about being accountable. I'm accountable to you. We're accountable to each other. I'm accountable to the president. Because I stand here representing Georgia Military College and all those pathways of opportunity, as do you. We're accountable to each other as ambassadors. So we've got to conduct ourselves accordingly. We got feelings, we're human beings. There's opportunities and places and locations to do that. But one of my passions is disciplined social networking. I should get a big, right? If this were an Army audience, I'd say, hooah. Right, hooah. Disciplined social networking. Just because you're thinking it, just because you're feeling it, doesn't mean you ought to post it. Right. Right. Yeah, somebody got it. Just because you're thinking it, just because you're feeling it, doesn't mean you go to the keyboard and post it. Because once you do, you can't pull it back. Right. And it can be destructive. It is destructive. So, several years back, probably about the time I was a colonel level commander when this was really starting to come into being, I had a policy on all this. Disciplined social networking and your information management. I like to say communicate with the 4 C's. President's got C's as well. We like acrostics, we like acronyms. But I was trained by a chief of staff years ago when I was a major. He said, Rock, you got to communicate with the 4 C's. Clear, concise, cogent, complete. Yes, sir. Never forgot it. Clear, concise, cogent, complete. Bullets, keep it simple, keep it straightforward. Bottom line up front. What is it you're asking the recipient of that email to do? Is it information? Is it a decision? Is it an action? Right? Am I resonating? Yes, ma'am. How many times have you received an email and you spend 10 minutes trying to figure out who is this? Why did I receive this? The president gets about 1,000 a day. And what am I supposed to do with this? Right. I know it's humorous, but we've got to address it. Many of you are shaking your heads. You just don't want to admit it. Out loud, that's okay. I'll talk to it. Every one of you who work for me in the region, you know. If you send me an email, you better tell me up front, what is my action on this? Don't just send me a forwarded email with 17 other emails on it. I got to spend 5 minutes trying to, what is this? My son's a lieutenant colonel in the Army in Joint Special Operations Command, getting ready to take lieutenant colonel command here in about a month. And we were talking about this very issue not too long ago. He said, Dad, the 2 line is the do line. He's right. If you're on the 2 line, what does that mean? You expect that person to do what? Do something with it. We use the 2 line like CC distribution. Right. We put everybody on the 2 line. So I can tell the president, sir, I send it out to everybody. Have a great weekend. That's a favorite Army staff technique, right, sir? Friday afternoon, you just send it to everybody. Sir, I did it. I did what you told me. Everybody's been informed, all the way up to the chairman. About 500 people on the 2 line. I hope somebody works that action for you by Monday morning. No, that's not the way we do business. Again, I already talked about addressing areas of concern before they become points of conflict and resolving those frictions before they become a conflict. All right, deliver superior performance. Let's resonate on this for take a minute. Make a positive impact. I like this. Say what you're going to do and follow through. Always do what you said you were going to do. Okay? Maintain truth, trust, transparency, and accountability. Develop systems of internal controls. We were all taught this in the Army when we were young. Great leaders and great units do routine things routinely. Sometimes we get off track. I showed you what the world looks like and what we're predicting. We got to do routine things routinely. We don't have time to get mired up in the basics. Streamline your systems. Okay? I love this one here. Know the difference between management efficiency and leadership effectiveness, right? So if you accept the definition that efficiency is doing things correctly, effectiveness is doing the right things, can you be doing the wrong things but doing them right? What? Yes? Go into any office in the Pentagon. I'm joking. I spent several years in the Pentagon, as did the president, so we can joke about those things. But there are many offices, I bet you've been in them. Man, this is the way we've always done it. That was 20 years ago. Okay. As Dr. Cummings and Dr. Promotion, many of you sitting in here know that I spent years signing hundreds of adjunct contracts. And they used to hear me say all the time, you know, the Army went to digital signatures 10 years ago. we got to figure this out, because I'm going through 3 pens every quarter. Some of you had my signature on your contract. Anyway, there's a difference between efficiency and effectiveness. You actually need both, but you start with your leadership effectiveness, doing the right things. And then ensure preparatory school and college graduates are fully equipped ambassadors. I love this acrostic here. We put this out about a month and a half ago on National Leader Appreciation Day, this leader acrostic. I think Dr. Makeley's going to talk about this if she hasn't already in her work group. LEADER, loyal, effective, authentic, disciplined, empowered, and respectful. You got to do that to meet future and ethical challenges in a very competitive global society. So we've set the stage. We've talked about a transformational leader growth model. We've talked about how to execute, demonstrate, inspire leadership, discipline, execution of duties, and delivering superior performance. Now, let me introduce to you a couple of things. And you know I love rhetorical questions. So I want you to look at the top as we start to wind down here. Whom do you follow? And who will you lead? Now don't just write that off. I want you to think about it. And I'm not talking about who you directly supervise, but whom do you follow? And who will you lead? So as you consider the answers, let's take a look at how your influence as an authentic servant leader is developed in the 5 stages which John Maxwell describes as the 5 levels of leadership. Now, if you got your book, or you're going to refer to it later, it's on page 8. Why do you think it's in here? Page 8 of your book, of this book right here, talks about the 5 levels of leadership. As the graphic depicts, it provides a model of influence. It helps us better understand the dynamics of leadership, and it also creates a roadmap that we can follow to develop and influence others. So let's listen, 3 minutes, to how John Maxwell describes these 5 levels. AJ, please cue the video.
At level number 1, this is where we all start. We all start with a title. We all start with a job description. We all start with a position. People at level number 1 follow you because they have to. In other words, you're the boss. The downside of level number 1 is the people who follow you will give you the least amount of their energy and effort. People don't like to have to follow people because they have to follow people. Level number 2 is the permission level. People now begin to follow you because they want to. Now, what happened between levels 1 and 2? You've connected with your people. They're not following you just because you are a supervisor. They're following you because you are a supervisor that people like. The leader on level 2, they have 3 things that they do extremely well to be a relational leader. One is they listen well. Secondly, they observe. They're conscious about where their people are and what their people are doing. And thirdly, they're learning. And then in the process of listening, observing, and learning, they have an attitude of servanthood. The third level is the production level. At this level, you become effective as a leader because you produce. And at level number 3, your leadership begins to gain credibility because now you are fleshing out for the people around you things that they want to see. Level number 4 is the people development level. The most appreciable asset you have in any organization is the people of that organization. 3 thoughts on developing people. Number 1 is the key to developing leaders, and the key to developing good people is in recruitment. 80% of your success of equipping people to be successful is in the front door on who you bring in. Recruitment is key. Number 2 is positioning. The ability not only to bring the right person in the front door, but also to put him in the right places. Collins would say, get him on the bus, get him on the right seat. Successful people have discovered what they're good at. Successful leaders discover what other people are good at. At level number 4, you recruit well, you position well, and then you equip well. And I use a very simple 5-step equipping process. The first step is I do it. Step 2 is I do it and you're with me. I take you with me. Now we're going to spend time together. I'm going to be your mentor. Now on step 3, you do it. You do it and I'm with you. Step 4 is you do it. You don't need me anymore. You know how to do it, and you do it, and you do it well. Step 5 is you do it and somebody's with you. You've never really trained and equipped somebody until they can multiply themselves. That's level number 4. The level where you develop people. It's level number 5, the pinnacle level. The pinnacle level, the key word there is respect. They follow you because of who you are, the qualities you have in your life. They follow you because of what you have done. Leadership is an always ongoing, always learning, growing process. Okay.
So those are the 5 levels of leadership. Now, to further guide your journey as authentic servant leaders, this is an acrostic that I developed some years ago. I'm not that smart, so I got to boil everything down into 3s and 5s, and I got to package it up in short phrases, clear, concise, coaching, complete. I got to keep alliteration going because that's how I remember things. I start with listen. Listen intentionally, because no one cares how much you know until they know how much you care. You start with that. You've got to learn continuously because you can't teach what you don't know. You've got to look expansively because you can't discover new oceans unless you have the courage to lose sight of the shore you're standing on. You've got to live completely because your dreams don't work unless you do. And then finally, I would posit that you always must lead decisively because you can't lead anyone, anywhere where you yourself aren't willing to go. It all comes down to what you see evolving on the slide. Servant leadership, healthy relationships, cohesive teams, and enduring values. Okay. I hope you all got one of these kits when you came in the door. Tanya Fountain and Tracy Makeley was strategically postured so that nobody could get by. If you did not get a kit, make sure you get one on the way out. Hopefully you've been able to resist the Snickers bar during the course of this presentation. I know it's a little bit lighthearted, but as some of you know and recall, when I assumed executive oversight of the Fairburn and Stone Mountain campuses in September of 2017, President called me and asked me if I could go over there and take that group of campuses over. We were in the midst of transforming our culture. I spent 3 hours with the staff, 3 hours with the faculty. I went to Stone Mountain, spent 3 hours with them. Some of you are in this room. And at the end of my presentation, when we set the vision and the new course that we were going to move it out on, I presented a kit similar to this. Now, in the interest of full transparency, Dr. Pamoja was in that room. I asked him last week if he still had his survival kit bag. He kind of gave me a sheepish look again and said, I think I ate the Snickers bar. I want you to keep this with you. You can open it. But again, as you traverse your leadership journey, as you grow through the 5 levels of leadership, through all the pathways of opportunity here, look at what you got in that bag. A pen and a pad, because servant leaders write down good ideas. You got a highlighter in there because servant leaders highlight strengths in others. You've got a rubber band because servant leaders, we got to be flexible. You got a Snickers bar because servant leaders not only have to eat, but you got to have a sense of humor. You got a dum-dum pop. I think Dr. Isaac likes this the most. That's what she told me. She likes this because servant leaders, we got to learn from our mistakes. You got a glue stick because servant leaders hold the team. That's why it's capitalized: teamwork, execution, attitude, and mission. Team together. You got a flashlight because servant leaders show the way for others. And there's a servant leadership reflection for you taken out of Maxwell's book, because you got to be able to inspire others to action. Again, I want to thank Tanya Fountain, the Director of Capital Planning, Design, and Construction, for helping me over the past several days, putting all this together. She did a remarkable job. Can you give her a hand? She did a great job. Thank you, Tanya. So again, it reinforces Maxwell's book. So here's my final slide as we conclude our time together. I'm going to give you 2 servant leader reflections. The first comes out of a book that I picked up not too long ago. It's co-authored by Ken Blanchard and Randy Conley. You see the picture there. Simple Truths of Leadership. 52 Ways to be a Servant Leader and Build Trust. I love this quote. The co-authors take turns writing various chapters. So this quote was out of Ken Blanchard's chapter. Servant leadership is the best way to achieve both great results and great relationships. The second quote appropriately comes out of John Maxwell's book that you have. I've referenced it. It's on your Authentic Servant Leader kit bag on the inside. Servant leadership develops from the inside out. People can see your attitude toward them. They can tell if you look down on them or you want to raise them up. They know if you want to help them or hinder them in order to help yourself. I love this part. They sense whether you are a ladder climber or a ladder builder. That's why serving others has to begin in your heart. So in conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, moving forward, I would offer to you that your success as an authentic servant leader will be measured by your personal commitment to continuous learning, training, education, development, and self-assessment, as well as your passion for team members and teams that you will train, coach, mentor, and lead. Along the way, you'll no doubt make mistakes, and you're going to face difficult decisions and dilemmas. But I want you to stand firm. Do not waver, as this is inherent in the process of learning what we call the art of leadership. Finally, and above all, as authentic servant leaders, you must display unimpeachable integrity. and uncompromising character, and remain truthful in word and deed, as this is the underlying premise of leading strong in your life and at Georgia Military College as we continue to forge our legacy of leadership by building on our military heritage since our founding in 1879 that is grounded in our core values of duty, honor, and love of country, to provide hope and opportunity through leader growth and education of our students, and to develop their intellect and character as authentic servant leaders in an environment focused on elevating civility and respect for others. Thank you for the honor of being with you today. Lead strong, serve with courage.
All right, all right. Thank you again, General Rock, for taking the time and energy, effort to organize and prepare for that presentation. Really appreciated that. So we're going to now transition into our workshops for today. And so our first set of workshops will kick off here at 11:05 in a moment, or excuse me, 10:05. And ultimately they'll be in the same wing here of classrooms in Miller Hall. And so feel free to transition now. We built in a break, a 15-minute break, to give everybody a chance to transition and reset. So one last thing, once you get to your division meetings, you probably already read this on the itinerary or the agenda. However, once your division meeting is over or complete, that will be the end of faculty assembly for that particular group. So once the division meetings are complete, then faculty assembly is over for that particular group. So again, it's been great seeing everyone, faces. Enjoy the rest of the day, and take care.